Alright, here we are in MonoDevelop. We've got ourselves a fresh boot, and what we're going to do this time is create a graphical application and add a couple of controls to it. First thing I'm going to do is start up MonoDevelop, and I'll go ahead and pause the video while that's starting up. MonoDevelop. Alright, here we are in MonoDevelop. I'll go ahead and start a new solution. And this is going to be a GTK Sharp solution, because that's the graphical toolkit that we like to work with. I'm going to call this guy GUI test and say new. Up it comes, and you can see that the original guy is main.cs, which is our application driver. Application init new my window application.run. This is not very exciting stuff, but what we want to work with is my window. Over here under the solution tab, you can see that we have mywindow.cs, and I have that open right over here. Alright. When we run this, a simple thing happens. We get a window saying default size 400 by 300, adds a delete handler, and show all. Okay, so if we were to run this, we would just get a simple little box. What we're going to do is add a button to it. The GTK library has a class called button. In C# we say obj button as the name of our variable equals new button. And the constructor that we're going to use will have the name of the button or the text on the button saying click me. Alright. Now what we have to do is add that button to my window. Okay, so here we are in my window, and we'll say this.add as the method, and you use and you pass the object that you want to add to it. In our case, we're going to add obj button. Okay. So if we save this and compile it, we'll get performing compilation, 1 succeeded, 0 failed. There we go. And as normal, I like to go over here to another desktop, start a new application, new terminal session for testing. So, cd mono projects, cd mono develop projects, cd GUI test, cd bin, cd debug, finally mono GUI test.exe. And voila, we have our window, 400 by 300, with a button that says click me. Click the button once, nothing really happens, because we haven't added any event handlers to it. So I'll go ahead and close it down, back over to the development, and now what we'll do is add an event handler. Event handlers are added by binding them to through the new event handler. You can see that the window has a delete event handler, and we're going to add a button clicked event handler in much the same way. So what we'll do is we'll say obj button dot clicked as the event. No, back over here. Clicked is the event plus equals new event handler. And we'll call this guy obj button underscore clicked, which is actually the name of the routine that we want to have executed when the clicked event is raised. We're going to create this as a subroutine, so we say void obj button underscore clicked object o event args. Okay. So here's our event handler. For this demonstration, all we're going to do when the button is clicked is say console.writeLine button clicked. Okay. Save it. Compile it. Performing compilation. Okay, so we have built our application. Back over to the console to test it. Here's our button click me. Click the button, and now you can see up here it says button clicked, just like we have told it to do. Alright. Well, this is all fine and good, except one gigantic button in the application is not very friendly. So what we're going to do now is add a couple of panes. Panes are sections of the window that you can add controls to. Alright? The first thing we're going to do is add a vertical pane which stacks items vertically. Okay? So let's close this down. Back over to the development area. We'll add a couple of panes. The first one is called paned. Obj vPane equals new vPaned. Alright. Rather than adding the button to the window, we're going to add obj vPane. So now the window has the vertical pane. We add the button to the vertical pane. We say obj vPane dot add one obj button. Okay. If we were to run this, since we only have the one button, the one control in that vertical pane, it would still take up the entire window. What we need to do is add a horizontal pane. So we say paned obj hPane equals new hPaned. And now we add obj vPane add 2, right, which adds it to the bottom portion of the pane, obj hPane. Okay, we'll save this, compile it. Once it compiles, we'll go ahead and run it, and you'll be able to see the results. And here we are. Much better. You can see that we have the button, which now only takes up a very small portion, as well as the little slider. Okay, this separates the top portion and the bottom portion. This bottom portion is actually a horizontal pane, which splits the sections into two sides. We have the left side and the right side. Again, we can add controls to this using add 1 and add 2. What we'll do here is add a couple of labels to it. Okay, so let's close that down. Back over to GUI test. And we'll add a couple of labels. Label obj label 1 equals new label. Label name, and label obj label 2 equals new label value. Alright, so now what we'll do is add these labels to the horizontal pane. Obj hPane dot add 1 obj label 1, which is the left side, and then obj hPane dot add 2. Love the IntelliSense, don't you? Obj label 2. Okay, save it, compile it. Finally, we end up with 1 succeeded, 0 failed. Test this guy out, and much nicer. Alright, here we have our vertical pane, which has the top button, and the bottom portion has that horizontal pane. The horizontal pane then has two sections. Slide this down. The left side contains label name, and the right side contains label value. Okay, two separate labels within the horizontal pane. What I'm going to do now is change it so that when I click this click me button, it'll actually change the label value here rather than simply adding it to the console back there. Let's go ahead and close this down. Back over to Mono Develop. And what I'll do is down here in the button clicked handler, I'll say obj label 2.text equals button clicked. Alright. The problem though is that obj label 2 is declared within the scope here. So what we have to do is move that out so that its scope is going to be known throughout the entire course, the entire class. Alright, now object label 2 is known throughout this entire class. When we compile and click the button, it will actually change the text like we expect. Let's go ahead and save it, compile it. Once it compiles, we'll go back over to test it, mono GUI test.exe, and now when I click it, you can see it changes the value there, just like we expect. I hope this video has given you some good insight and some experience, and encourages you to continue with your own testing.